Welcome to Part 2 of the Field Availability tutorial. In Part 1, we demonstrated how to set up a field that will be used by multiple teams, where each of those teams has an equal opportunity to use any of the field's available time slots. In other words, individual time slots are not reserved for certain teams. In that scenario, only one schedule is created for each field. In this video, we will review how to set up a field that will be used by multiple teams, but specific time slots need to be reserved for certain teams. As we'll demonstrate in this video, this scenario requires us to add more than one schedule to a single field. If you have not already watched Part 1, it is important that you do so first, as it provides an important foundation. Now let's begin. In Part 1 of the tutorial, we worked with an example field called Alliance Bank Stadium, where we added a schedule that provides game slots that are shared equally by the Astros and the Braves. Now let's say that another team in our club, the Orioles, also needs to play at Alliance Bank Stadium. However, the Orioles need to play at specific times, and therefore need specific time slots reserved just for them. To accommodate this, we will need to add a second schedule to Alliance Bank Stadium that will contain the Orioles time slots. So, to add another schedule, we'll follow the same process we followed in Part 1. We start by going to My Home Fields and selecting the field we want to work with. We can see that the schedule we already created in Part 1 for the Astros and Braves appears in the list of schedules for Alliance Bank Stadium. We want to add another schedule to the field, so we'll click the Add a Schedule button. We'll name our new schedule ABS_Orioles because it will contain the Orioles time slots at Alliance Bank Stadium. Next, we'll click View Schedule. This brings us to the Initialize Schedule screen, where we will first enter the beginning date and end date for the season. Then, we'll check the appropriate boxes for the time slots that the Orioles most commonly need to use. When finished, we'll click the Initialize button. The next step is to use the calendar to specify the exact time slots that are and are not available for play on the schedule. You can notice that any time slots that we previously set to yes on the schedule that we already created are shown as used here and cannot be enabled. To prevent scheduling conflicts, the system blocks you from enabling any slots that are already in use on another schedule for that field. We'll continue by selecting the time slots that we want to be reserved for the Orioles. Once we're done, we'll click Save at the bottom of the page. Now it's time to add teams by clicking the Add a Team button. Because this schedule provides time slots specifically for the Orioles, we need to set the Orioles as having primary priority status. Now is when we need to think about the secondary priority option, which we ignored in Part 1 of the tutorial. As this schedule is currently set up, you should understand that the Astros and Braves will not be allowed to use any of the slots enabled on this schedule, even on slots where the Orioles do not end up with a game scheduled at the field. Alliance Bank Stadium will simply lay unused during any of those time slots that the Orioles do not use. This may not be what you want to happen, and to deal with it, field availability allows you to add teams to a schedule with a secondary priority. A team with secondary priority will be allowed to use the field on a given time slot only if none of the primary teams will use that slot. So, in our example, we would probably want to add the Astros and Braves with secondary priority on this schedule. Then we need to click Save My Teams to save our selections. Also, we would probably want to edit the Astros and Braves schedule to give the Orioles secondary priority on that schedule's time slots. So, we'll open the ABS Astros Braves schedule and we'll add the Orioles as secondary. So, this will allow the Orioles to use a time slot that belongs to the Astros and Braves only if neither the Astros nor the Braves end up with a game scheduled during that slot. Then we need to click the Save button to save this change. Just to mention the Blue Jays team, we did not give them slots on either schedule, so they will not have any of their home games scheduled at Alliance Bank Stadium. For our demonstration, let's say that the Blue Jays use a different field and therefore do not need to be added to any of the schedules for Alliance Bank Stadium. One final feature to cover is the ability to add a team owned by another club to a schedule. If by any chance you loan or rent time slots on your field to another club, you can add that team to a schedule by using this feature. Simply select the appropriate options for the team you want to add, specify primary or secondary priority status, and click the Add Team button. The team is now added to the schedule. If you no longer want the team part of that schedule, you can click the Unlink button to remove it. Let's say, for example, you loaned or rented a single specific time slot to an outside team. In that case, you would want to create a separate schedule with only that one time slot set to yes on the calendar, then only add the outside team to that schedule. This way, the time slot is dedicated to that team without being shared by any of your other teams. Once you are done adding the appropriate schedules to all of your fields, don't forget that the final step is to click the E-Verify button to communicate to the league that you have made all of your final selections. You need to individually click the E-Verify button for each schedule on each field. Once you have E-Verified each of your schedules, you are finished with field availability. Thank you for watching this video and have a great season.